Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network. This is our special Saturday edition called Step Up Your Game with Dan. I'm your host, Dennae Handford, and I'll be discussing topics to help you make better decisions to increase your productivity, increase your sales, and improve your overall marketing. Visit toughdecisions.net to sign up for our free weekly entrepreneur email. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
Welcome to this Saturday edition of the Tough Decisions for Entrepreneurs podcast. This is your host, Dan Handford. The show today is all about how to increase your sales, productivity, and marketing. And one of the things I wanted to focus on this episode is the productivity. And so from the productivity standpoint, I think one of the things that we sometimes forget to focus on is being organized and having a system and a process in place. And one of the things to make a system and a process go smoothly is to be organized. So a lot of you already know that, with my company, HanfordCapital.com, and this PassiveInvesting.com site, that we acquire large multifamily assets. So we're acquiring large apartment complexes using our own investor money, but also outside investor money. So one of the things that we just did in December was we acquired a large 130-unit apartment complex in Greenville, South Carolina. And with that acquisition, we always look at the expenses and see where is the money being spent, and is there any way for us to shave expenses on things that are maybe we're overpaying for and things like that. And I also look at the internal, leasing office and see, is it organized in a fashion that can make the most efficient use of the space? And so this particular leasing office is a 4,000 square foot leasing office, which is about probably twice as much, a little bit more than twice as much as what a 130 complex needs. But what the prior owners did is they converted a old house into a leasing office. And so it's basically a 4,000 square foot house with 130 apartment units around it. It was a great idea, but really you don't really need that much for a leasing office. So there's going to be some things that we're going to do with it as far as, converting it into a more usable space and adding a business center and a little bit larger fitness center and then various things like that. But one of the things that I saw the last time I was there this past week is the fact that there are a lot of old files and old equipment there and lots of extra wiring everywhere that really is not needed, and it makes it look disorganized. So the leasing manager there said, well, I'm afraid to throw anything away because, I'm not the owner and the owner's never here. And so when I was there, I told her, I said, well, I'm going to go up there on Saturday and figure out what's here now that we own it. And I'm going to sit down with you and we're going to figure out where can we get rid of things. Where can we start to shred some of these old documents and things like that we don't need, and really make this more of a paperless, office? And so she was really excited about it. And so what I did is I asked her, I didn't even offer her to come. I asked her to come. I basically said, well, I'll come up here on Saturday. And she said, well, I'll come as well. And I said, well, I'm going to bring my two older kids. So I have an 8-year-old Caroline and a 6-year-old Caleb. And this morning, this is actually Saturday morning, and we decided to just go ahead and drive up to the property. It's about an hour and 20-minute drive from our house. So we drove up. We're driving up right now this morning to go and clean out this leasing office and make it much more organized and allow us to kind of figure out where can we use this space the most efficiently, which will hopefully increase the productivity of the staff. And so one of the things that we also looked at when we were there is, obviously some of the expenses. And we were overpaying there for internet and phone system and, various things like that because they had an old antiquated, system in place. And so we were able to go in there and change some of that and And all of that really takes sometimes a fresh set of eyes to be able to do that. But as far as the productivity standpoint, I think one of the things that can increase productivity is being organized and making sure that you're not, cluttered, and you don't have a bunch of papers everywhere and boxes everywhere and a bunch of extra junk, right? And so one of the things that I always do is I try to purge at least once a year and figure out, have I used this in the last year? If not, get rid of it. Whether that means throw it away or whether that means go in and put it on eBay or on the Facebook marketplace or whatever and try to sell it so that we're not just holding on to something that is not being utilized, because I don't want to be somebody who just sits there and hoards and just takes a bunch of, buys a bunch of stuff and, I can't use it or don't use it anymore, just holding on to it. So I always try to do that. And that's one of the things we're doing today in that office. And one of the other nice things about today is obviously I'm bringing my two kids up, but our regional property managers offered to come as well. So she's going to meet us up there. And also the leasing agent's son, he's like 15, 16 years old. She said, I'm going to bring him too. He'd love to do it, help out with this. So, obviously, we're going to all be there and trying to get as much of that cleaned out as possible and really utilize that space much more efficiently, which will increase the productivity of the leasing agent, the leasing manager, and even just how we put tenants through there. And so we're going to be buying them new computers that will allow them to have faster speeds, and we're going to upgrade their router with their internet to make them have more productivity. Because sometimes we look at the internet and we go, well, let's just buy the cheapest plan we can because it'll at least get us what we need. One thing you don't always understand is that sometimes just buying the internet at the lowest speeds decreases productivity because it takes your staff now longer times to process, downloads and uploads and various things like that. So to make sure that your team is running as efficiently as possible, you want to make sure that they have a decent internet connection. So make sure that you check that as well, because like I said, they were on an old plan for however many years, and we were able to call them up and get on a new plan that was cheaper and had twice as much speed. So make sure you check that out too, and that'll help to increase some of your productivity. One of the other things that I think is important and relates to productivity is making sure that you train your staff to be organized. So once I go in there, this leasing office, and start to get it organized the first time, you want to make sure that you go in and you check and make sure it's continually staying organized and put in an audit system and a process in place to make sure that the organization stays that way. And so, that's just a few little tips I wanted to share with you on today's episode as I'm driving, down the road right now going to the property. So if you're interested in possibly passively investing with us in some of these projects that we're doing, we usually do a minimum investment of $50,000. Some investments it's $100,000, but it's usually a minimum investment of $50,000. And we accept accredited as well as sophisticated investors. And if you're not familiar with what those terms are, you can always Google that or reach out to us on our Multifamily Investor Nation page. There's a lot of educational content there as well as on our YouTube channel. But we accept, regular, cash or funds for that as far as being wired in. We have an investment property, and we also accept IRA money. So if you have an IRA sitting there that's just sitting in the stock market and you're a little bit worried about what's going to happen over the next couple of months or years as the market starts to soften up, it'd be a good idea to maybe look at investing your IRA money, which you can do in a self-directed account, in some of these multifamily assets. They are one of the most stable asset classes because even if you look back in 2008, you'll notice that they had one of the lowest default rates, and it was one of the first asset classes to recover because back in 2008 when the market crashed, nobody could buy houses. So what did they do? They just continued to rent, and they wanted to go back into go into apartments. And if you look at the trends and the graphs, America is becoming a renter nation, and it's because a lot of the millennials that are out there now want to be able to have that flexibility of being able to get up and go to the next place, and they don't want to be stuck and tied down like some of the prior generations. Really, what we're looking forward to doing is finding a house, that dream home, and really locking down their home. So it's a great asset class, a great place to be investing in, and our group only buys 100 units or more with a minimum $10 million purchase, and we're going to be acquiring many properties here in 2019. So if you're interested in jumping on a phone call with me and discussing some of this further, you can go to the website passiveinvesting.com, and there's a little form there. Just fill that out. I'll reach out to you, schedule a phone call, and we'll jump on the line and see what your investment goals are, and we'll tell you what our goals are and what we're looking for, and see if we're a good fit. So it's not a good fit for everybody. So that's why we always try to do a phone call with people to make sure that before they invest, they understand what they're investing in and how we're actually going to be using their investing dollars. But typically, most of our investments are seeing about a 15 to 18% IRR, that internal rate of return. It's kind of like an annualized return, if you will, based on the amount of time that we're returning the initial capital. And, from an easy standpoint, if you're not familiar with IRR, we're typically being able to double your money in 5 years. And so it's because we're only buying assets that are stabilized, cash flowing day one, with the ability for it some accelerated depreciation, and also the ability to have some value add components where there's like deferred maintenance or interior renovations that need to be done, so we can push the rents up, increase the NOI, which also increases the actual purchase price of the property. So I know I kind of spitballed all that right at once, but if you're interested, go to passiveinvesting.com. I'd love to be able to jump on a phone call with you and discuss it with you further. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Tough Decisions for Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Dan Handford, and I'll talk to you next Saturday.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.